I'm going to ask a leading question before we get into my program. How many of you have actually driven over this bridge? Okay. You've driven over that bridge?
On my bike.
Back in the late 70s, I don't have the exact date, that's when they took the overpass away and put Gulf and 59 with a four-way intersection. Up until that point, you had to cross over the Lion Bridge to get up onto 59. So there's a number of you who remember driving over it. Yes? Yes.
Was it two-way traffic? Two-way traffic?
Only one way, but there was two-way traffic, but only one car could cross over at a time. So if you were headed south and somebody was coming north, whoever got there first got to go. The other guy had to wait. And one of the funniest stories, and it was Marilyn Lind, who was with our Historic Sites Commission and passed away several years ago. She was telling the story of when she drove over the bridge and they were working on it. They had put down a new layer of asphalt, and guess what they were doing with the middle of the bridge? They were putting a yellow stripe. And I don't know if she stopped and said anything to them about it. I think she did. And I think when she was coming home later in that day, I think it had been painted over. So, yeah, a yellow stripe down the middle of the bridge. Well, you know, they were used to doing things a certain way. I want to welcome all of you sincerely. Thank you. I'm so honored that you want to come here and hear me tell my stories. I'm Pat Barch. I'm the historian for the Village of Hoffman Estates. And I think I've been historian now a good 20 years. I think. I'm not certain. But it keeps me on my toes. And you know, when you receive the Citizen newsletter, I do write the historian notebook in there. And I do have fans. They email me and they tell me how much they enjoy what I write. And I do enjoy doing it. And I'm starting to run out of ideas though. So, you know, email me if you have some things you'd like me to write about. But let's begin. Here we have on the screen our guest of honor. And our guest of honor, of course, is the Lion Bridge. It was built back in 1906, long time ago. And I've been out to this bridge, and this is a winter view. And you can see that old road that's leading south. That's the one we drove over. That's how we would get up onto Bode Road and then right there at 59. It was a snowy morning and very sunny, and I wanted to go out and take this picture. You see the snow on the lion's head? Knowing that it was a three-dimensional figure, I thought sure that, you know, there'd be snow on it. Now, this is the west side of the bridge, and this is a good shot because it shows you, you know, we have traffic on Gulf Road. It's very close there. The bridge was left in place because it's considered a historic bridge. Here's that road. If you ever take the time and go to Bode and where the bridge is, you can park there. There's a little parking lot, and you can walk down it and get a little closer, walk over it, look at it. One of the things that I'm starting to get worried about is its condition. It's 117 years old, and There's a lot of deterioration now around the edges of it. You know, why did people go over this bridge? Well, it's what I said. 59 went up over the top of 58. And so this was the only way that you could get up onto 59. You'd be heading either way on Gulf Road. You would make your turn onto the little road, cross over the bridge to Bode, little turn there, and then you would go either way. On 59, you would go either direction. So, you know, back then, 1906, when this bridge was built, there was no Gulf Road. There was no Gulf Road. There was no Route 59. Bode Road went into Elgin. So if you can picture this now, it's very rural, farms everywhere, the dairying industry was booming. Elgin was the place to go with your milk. And so the bridge, whatever bridge was there over Poplar Creek, prior to this bridge, I can't tell you what it was. It could have been, and probably was, some old wooden rundown thing that was about ready to collapse. And back at this time is when Hanover Township said, my gosh, you know, we got to get a new bridge in there. You know, who knows what farm wagons went off the bridge into the creek. We don't have any of those records. And so Hanover Township got in touch with Cook County. And Cook County said, we need a bridge. And Cook County went out to see the site, and they said, yes, you need a bridge. And so they gave permission to go half with Hanover Township. Cook County spent $1,500, and Hanover Township spent $1,500. And who else would build this but this person that I'm going to introduce you to? And we looked and looked for years. Jeffrey Bear came out to this area looking for historical things, and I mentioned the bridge, and he wondered who built it. I said, we don't know. Jeffrey Bear couldn't find out who built it. And so if Jeffrey Bear couldn't figure out who built it, I thought, well, I guess I'm not doing too bad of a job with my research. I can't find him either. Well, this very nice man, and Harry, I apologize for cutting off the top of your head. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the biography because eventually we found this man. Harry L. Emerson was the Cook County engineer who built the first reinforced concrete arch bridges in Cook County. He built 7 bridges across the Des Plaines River. 2 notable bridges were the Stephen Street Bridge in Lamont, Illinois, built in 1906, and Dundee Road Bridge in Wheeling in 1905. Note those dates. The Dundee Road Bridge was identical to our Lion Bridge with only a longer span to cross the Des Plaines River. Both the bridges had animals cast on the sides of the closed spandrels. His Stephen Street Bridge was considered a destination point for visitors to the Chicago area because it was so beautifully designed. The highway commissioners of the town of Hanover requested help from Cook County on May 31st, 1906, with the building of a bridge over Poplar Creek at Batterman Road. At the time, it was called Batterman Road because Mr. Batterman owned all that land. That road went right through his property, and you'll see a picture of it a little bit later. Hanover's request was referred to the Committee on Roads and Bridges, and after visiting the site, they said, yes, we're going to build a bridge. The committee minutes of 11/26/1906 stated that the completed bridge was turned over to the town of Hanover. Cost would be $3,000, equally shared by Cook and Hanover. 11, that was November. They approved this bridge in May. That was a pretty fast build. And here's what I'm thinking. This beautiful bridge in Lamont was a destination point. I have a postcard from 1906 showing that bridge. That's how important it was. They were selling postcards. People would come to Chicago, well, what can I see? They'd send them out to see that bridge. That's how beautiful it was. But in the records for Cook County, in their board minutes, they had a completion date for this Lamont Bridge was prior to our Lion Bridge. In November, that Lamont Bridge was not quite finished. Now, I'm going to show you these two bridges. Do you think that that bridge was a sample? Do you think that was a way for him to try this design to see if it would work? Harry Emerson worked for a surveying company. We had them here as guests for a program several years back. They have his books with all of his notes and minutes. They can't find it. I would give my eye teeth if I had that book to know exactly what Mr. Emerson was doing, what his plans were. Anyways, they still haven't found it. Let's look ahead here. Now, this picture, I tried several ways to get it onto the screen, onto my slide really. The picture that I have shows the complete Lion. Does that look like our Lion Bridge? Yeah, it looks exactly like it. It has that edging, the top edge, and the lions are down at the other edge, but you can't see it. This is the bridge in Wheeling over the Des Plaines River. And that same edge, those same arches, and there was a small newspaper article that said that it was built by Harry L. Emerson. Here's that bridge in Lamont. That last bridge that's identical to ours was built in 1905. Was that the one that was the sample for the Lamont one? They're all at that same time. He must have been building them all at the same time. It was the Joliet Iron and Bridge people that built our Lion Bridge. So here you can see the animals. You see the lion there, and then there's other animals as you go over that bridge. It has, I don't know how many arches on it, but it is considered to be one of the most beautiful bridges ever built. At this time, this was a whole new way of building a bridge, and that's why our bridge is so historic. They were just beginning to build what they call steel concrete arch bridges. This is a picture of our Lion Bridge in the summer. No snow on those lions. You notice how high the water is? Well, I almost fell in that creek. Here we are, our Lion Bridge in the winter. I almost went in the drink when I took this picture. Only grabbing a handful of sturdy weeds kept me from going in the creek. And I would have been quickly down that creek and into the Fox River. Probably would have been pretty wet, soggy, but I remember the day. And I remember talking with Ed Cook, who had also wanted to go and take a picture of the bridge for his ornament. He was in the process of painting the bridge on the ornament, and he also liked the snow. His trek from Bode Road to the bridge, he fell, and he said he had a very hard time getting up. Neither one of us, are all that young. So he did get to the bridge, and he said He almost went in the creek also. You wanted to get as close as you could to be able to get those pictures. And so I'm glad that I'm still here, none the worse for wear. Now, here we go. We talked about this bridge, and there was no Gulf Road. Back in 1906, no Gulf Road. There was Higgins Road, and there was Bode Road. Bode Road, do you know that Bode Road went all the way into Elgin? Some people knew, yes. Bode Road went all the way into Elgin, and it was called the Elgin to Chicago Road. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck are you going to get to Chicago on Bode Road? Well, it was that connection at Roselle Road. Roselle Road in Bode, and you just scoot a little bit to the north, just around the bend, and there you are at Higgins. You take Higgins, and it takes you all the way to Chicago. And that's how they traveled. From Elgin, they would take the Bode Road, Elgin to Chicago Road. That bridge that took these people. Now, this is a wonderful picture, and you know, people who come across these things, they send them to me. Thank you very much to Alan. He was able to send this to me. It was a picture he found in an old cycling magazine. And this cycling magazine was from the 1940s. And it says, popular cycle trains took riders to the country for weekend excursion. Here's a group of riders near Barrington in the 1940s. And of course, we have the photographer's name there. So this was in the 40s. People were coming out here to bike and be in the country in the 1940s. They could take the train out. They take it out to Barrington, and then evidently, I'm assuming, they biked from Barrington here along these trails and along Sutton Road. That's what it was called back then. It was Old Sutton Road. It was not Route 59. So now, this bridge is used mostly now by the horseback riders and people on bikes. You know, it was abandoned when they decided to take down the overpass for 59 and put a new bridge over Poplar Creek. And you know, when they did that overpass 59 over Old Sutton Road and that was a very good way to get over that creek. They didn't have to build a bridge. Once they took down that overpass and they had 59 and 58 together, then they had to build that whole brand new bridge that is there now. This one was abandoned. Oh, and I did learn that the bridge in Wheeling, I believe, is still there. I have not confirmed that, but the facade that had the lions on it, that was all taken off. But the basic bridge, I believe, remains. That work was done to it, but that it is still there. And so, you know, just like a beautiful woman, you want to know what her dimensions are. I have the dimensions of our Lion Bridge, and this was a report that goes back to 1906. And so, in the meantime, I do have information from 2023. And this is an earlier report. It's done by IDOT, and I've not been able to get a recent one. The condition is deteriorating as it's now 117 years old. I'm really concerned about it. I truly am. And so this newest report, it's very interesting. The report that I did have was from 2006. And so here's just a few of the interesting facts about the bridge. It is called a bridle path. That's what it's used for. It's called the Lion Bridge. It has a sufficiency rate of 65.0. So that's pretty good, as opposed to 100%. The structure length is 54 feet. It crosses the Poplar Creek, and then it gives its location, not the ones that we know, but the whatever the ones that the engineers know. Is it eligible for a historic bridge? That's that HB historic bridge. Yeah, oh, no, that's not what that one means. No. Then they give another length, but then further down, it states that the main county is Cook. The main responsibility is IDOT. Okay, I was looking for that information. When was it built? It says in 1906. And then some other things that I don't know if you would be interested in. It has an arch deck filled spandrel. Historical significance, yes. The bridge is considered a historic bridge. And then there's no other information there that you would be interested in. So with this in my hand, I thought, gee, that goes back to 2006. I need something newer. And so with the help of Mr. Cutterberg of Hanover Township, I was able to get the most recent report on the bridge. And I did find that it really hasn't changed much, except for one thing. I looked at the report and I thought, wait a minute. The structure length for the bridge has changed. The old report said the bridge was 54 feet. That was back in 2006. Well, now in 2023, it's only 41 feet. So now, of course, you know, I have a question in to Cook County to find out why there's a difference. So I don't have an answer yet. But the most recent report does not show much more deterioration. It's pretty much the same. The steel bars that are on the top of the bridge, that the reinforced part of the bridge is exposed. It has been for years. Down underneath the arch of the bridge, that's starting to crumble underneath there. None of these things affect the strength of that bridge. It's still safe for horses and bikes to go over. And so I was happy to see that, although very curious about the length of it. My next question, you can vote. Do you remember years back when the Tribune did this story? Is the Lion Bridge one of the suburb's 7 wonders? They were writing a story about the 7 wonders of the suburbs. And the bridge was 100 years old at that time. And this was the Chicago Trib. And here was their little story. The civilized world was much smaller and much newer when the Greeks decided 2,000 years ago to list its 7 wonders. With only one of the original 7, the pyramids at Giza, still in existence, a small nonprofit group has launched an effort to bring the list up to date and give it a global reach. In the process, 200,000 people a day are voting for each accomplishment as the Incan Mountaintop City, Machu Picchu in Peru, Easter Island's mysterious statues, the Great Wall of China, England's Stonehenge, and even such contemporary icons as the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty. The new list is due to be released in July, and it's already stirring both excitement and controversy. And underneath, and it's, I guess you'd be able to read that, would you vote for the 100-year-old Old Lion Bridge? I would. Of course I would. And so that was a real cool story when they came out to do that. Our bridge was very popular at that point. And so the rest of the people in our community also knew how important that bridge was. The bridge has a historical marker on it. Hanover Township, Hoffman Estates, and Cook County Forest Preserve dedicate historic sign. And so this is to the left, from left to right, is Brian McGuire, William McLeod, Tricia O'Brien, Pat Barch, and Marilyn Lind. And we were there on that day to dedicate this marker. And so if you do take the time to walk down to that bridge, don't fall in the potholes or anything, but this is the very beautiful sign that is part of their heritage markers. And it was a beautiful day. It was a little chilly though. Mayor, you remember that day? Yeah, it was a little chilly on that day, but a very special day for our Lion Bridge. And there you can see the placement of the historical marker, and with the township supervisor and our mayor. Winter arrives at the Lion Bridge. Here I am again, because I took all these pictures. And there you see there's snow on the lions' heads. But I wanted to get a picture. I wanted to get a picture of the traffic there on Route 59. I wanted a view of how close it is to the highway and that intersection. There are people that don't know about the bridge, and I will say to them, well, it's right there at the corner of 59 and Gulf Road. Oh, where? I've never seen it. But there it is, and you can see the stoplights hanging up, and no more overpass, long, long gone. No more trucks or cars going over it, only the horses and the bikes. Here is an idea of how this bridge was constructed. And it took this photograph for me to realize how they put this together. You can see it's in sections, like a puzzle. And you can see that line, there it goes right through the top of the lion. When you're away from the bridge and not up so close, not being able to take this close-up shot, you really don't see that. You don't see that at all. But that's becoming more pronounced as the years go by. And here's some of the deterioration of the Lion Bridge. It shows that steel reinforcement. You can see it there all along to the left. That's been exposed for quite a while, and it's been rusting over a number of years. I don't know, what's really going to happen to it. You can also see the area there. It looks like there's something missing. There used to be a plaque there. People are notorious for dismantling these kinds of things, historical markers, headstones, the surveyor markers that are in the ground, and they shouldn't be touching them. And so that was taken off. Now, I was told by people who had read it back when the bridge was still being used by the trucks and cars and that it had the names of the Cook County commissioners who were on the board back in 1906. And I have a list of their names, but I didn't want to put it here. But that's what was on there. Those were the people that agreed to build that bridge. What about all the records from Hanover Township? Why did we have to hunt for years trying to learn who this bridge was built by? Remember, back in 1906, when there was a meeting, it wasn't being held in Hanover Township's offices. They didn't have any. The meeting was held in Farmer Paul's farm, maybe down in the basement of the farmhouse. When they kept their records, someone kept a longhand record of the minutes, put in a little folder somewhere, and maybe he put it in the bottom of his closet. That's what happened to the records. No one bothered to save those. And so when we tried to do our research to learn about Mr. Emerson and who he was, to know who built that bridge, we didn't have any clue. The only thing that Hanover Township had was an oil painting of a horse rider riding over the bridge. And I believe that hangs in their offices if you ever go there. But there was nothing else. We had sent one of our members to go and do some research. In fact, it was Jim Garvey. Jim Garvey went there, and that's 20 years ago. And there was nothing. We could find nothing. Does anybody know who has this plaque? No one's owning up to it? Mayor, did you take it? No, Mayor wasn't. He was just a little, he probably wasn't even born yet. You know, back in 1906, the mayor wasn't even born yet. He's not guilty. He's not guilty. All right. Now, this shows further deterioration of the bridge. You see that in the upper left-hand corner. Look at that. Yeah. And yet, you know, that's not affecting the strength of the bridge. Not yet. Not yet. You see that beautiful edge? It's just beautiful bridge. A beautiful bridge. There's some deterioration on the archway as you look out over the creek. So, this is my question. And I'm going to pose this question to you, to all of you. And we'll see who comes up with the common sense answer to who this bridge belongs to, who's responsible for it. Now, do you think this bridge belongs to Hoffman Estates?
No.
No. It's within our boundaries, you know, but no, it has nothing to do with us. When I called and I talked to our people here the department, our department for streets and, yeah. They said the bridge belonged to Hanover Township. They said in 1906, Cook County handed that bridge over to them. It's their bridge. And I said, yeah, but since 1906, we've been using that as a highway. I drove over it. We drove over that bridge. So, you know, how could Hanover be responsible for it now if we've got, you know, cars and that driving on it? I would think that that bridge now is a part of IDOT. And then I had these reports. You know, why was IDOT continuing to report on this bridge if it didn't belong to them? I thought, well, is it still their bridge? So then, I never got in touch with IDOT. I did indirectly through Mr. Kuttenberg of the Hanover Township. But I called the Forest Preserve. I thought, okay. I had done research about what happens when you abandon a road. What happens when that road is abandoned? And it was. And so was the bridge. Who gets the bridge? Who gets the road? Well, that information I thought was very interesting, except I thought, well, when a roadway is abandoned, it becomes the property of the people who own the property on either side of the road. Okay? But then I thought, what if the property is owned by these people, and then the other side someone else? I guess maybe they get their half. But that was what I read. When a road and a bridge are abandoned, it becomes the property of the people that own that land. And who was that? It was the forest preserve. So when I called the forest preserve and I said, now the bridge, do you take care of that bridge? No. And I said, well, I think it's your bridge. And so the gentleman called me back and he said, our trail that is an official trail that belongs to our forest preserve. It is for horses and bikes, and that is official trail on our trail maps for the forest preserve. Okay, but you don't take care of it? No. I says, well, do you know who does? I got another call back the next day. That's Hanover Township. Okay, so Hanover Township says they don't really know. They don't believe it's theirs because it had belonged to the highway system, that it would be IDOT. But now the forest preserve has a trail. They felt that it was the forest preserve. And I said, well, this is what I learned, and I shared my story. And not yesterday, but the day before, I got an email, and Mr. Kuttenberg over at Hanover Township had gone ahead and gotten in touch with Cook County to solve the problem of who is responsible for the bridge. I'm going to ask you, who do you think is responsible for this bridge? How many think it's IDOT? Raise your hand. How many think it's Hanover Township? How many of you think it's the forest preserve? Yes. And that's exactly who it belongs to. And so I understand there's going to be a virtual meeting on Monday between Hanover Township and the forest preserve. I'm going to be very interested in their reaction when they learn it's your bridge. It belongs to you. The horses and the bikes go over it. It's your trail. It's your bridge. So this is my last slide, and I did get the answer. I did get the answer just in time for today, and that is the end of my program, except. Oh boy, didn't take me as long as I thought. More time for cake. I mean, I've done so much to study this little bridge, and I now have an answer to who's responsible for the bridge. And so now I would hope that somehow there would be a way to do some repairs to the bridge. And it may just be limited. It may be just a new surface, a protection of that steel underneath that's rusting away. I don't know. But you know how all of us, as people in this community and people who support our government and keep everything running and that, somebody's got to have some funding, I'm hoping, and that's where I'm starting up again. I had contacted Ray Crispo, and I'm thinking, I'm sorry, Fred Crispo. I thought he might know of any money that might be available to a historic bridge. Remember, this bridge is considered historic. It is eligible for the National Register. It is considered historic by the state of Illinois. And there's the Historic Bridge Foundation, who also recognize it as historic. They have said that it may be possible that Illinois may have funding of some kind for historic purposes to help restore historic buildings or historic bridges. They didn't know if Illinois had a fund like that. I don't either. So I thought, to contact the people that might know. And so, our representatives and the people that may have access to any funding that could help with the bridge would be great. I don't know if something like that could be done for the bridge. I would think Cook County, it's their bridge, and they're going to be the ones that are going to have that final say. When anything is historic, it has no effect on whether it's torn down or not. I know that. I know that firsthand. And so to preserve this little bridge would be a wonderful thing. And I'm hoping that maybe in the future there will be something that's done to help protect it a little bit. But I don't know. So we'll find out more stories as far as this meeting with Cook County and the Hanover Township and the Forest Preserve. And, when people work together, sometimes something comes of it. And I'm hoping that it will. Right now, the bridge is safe. The bridge is sound. It is not falling down. It is okay for the horses and the bicycles. And I hope that you learn a little bit more about this story of the man that built the bridge, Harry Emerson, and these other beautiful bridges that he built. Oh, my last words. The Lion Bridge is the only one remaining. He built 7 bridges over the Des Plaines River. The Lamont Bridge, the one with all of those beautiful animals on it, that was eventually torn down. And I think it was in the 60s that was eventually torn down and a new bridge was built. The bridge in Wheeling, I don't have information, but I think the facade was torn off, but I think the bridge, I think the main part of that bridge is still there. But again, now that I've not been able to find out. The people in Wheeling, their historical society, they were able to share that picture with me, but they really didn't know much more about the bridge. They just knew that they loved it to death, and of course now the only Lion Bridge left is our little bridge. Tell me, how many of you have seen that bridge firsthand? All of you have. There's nobody here who's never seen it? Okay. You all know about the little bridge, and I hope you love it the way I do, and you have memories of driving over it. I remember we would go to visit my brother who lived in Aurora, and we would go over that bridge, and I was, that was probably 1967, 68, somewhere around there. And I remember every time we would get to the bridge, my children would say, "Do you think we get to go first?" And I says, "Well, we'll see." And of course, it seemed every time we were getting ready to cross, somebody else was coming the other way, and we had to pull over to the side to let them go first. So I would always say, "Oh, sorry guys, we weren't first." So it was something they've always remembered. If you have children and your children went over that bridge with you, they remember that bridge. They remember the lions. And so thank you for coming. Happy 64th birthday to Hoffman Estates. You know, it took us 3 times. We had to vote 3 times before we finally got enough votes to incorporate. And so here we are.
When was the overpass done away with it became an intersection?
I think in the late 70s, sometime after, I believe, 77. I'm thinking between 77 and 79. Does anybody have any idea? No, I think it was in the late 70s. And I have that number in my head because my friend Marilyn Lynn, she was going to a college class, and that's, I think, the year she said she was taking a class, and that's the way she had to travel. And so, and then it became the two-way stop. But just next time you're on Bode Road, go down Bode Road if you're ever in that area, and just imagine that was the main road. And Bode Road and Meacham Road are the two oldest roads in our northwest area here. Bode Road, 1840s is when it was built, and so it went into Elgin. And remember, they had to get all that milk across that bridge, and then to Bode Road, and then they would go west, and that would take them into Elgin. Gale Borden, you remember, he was the one who came up with condensed milk, and the condensed milk was so important in the First World War, Second World War, so that our troops had the canned milk as part of their rations. And so, and the cheese, all the cheese, and on Bode Road, there was a hotel. There was a hotel on Bode Road just west of, around Bartlett Road. And it was called, guess what? The Bode Hotel. And there was also a cheese factory there. So this is why they needed that good bridge. Nobody could get into Elgin unless they crossed Poplar Creek on Sutton Road, which became 59, to Bode, and then they took Bode into Elgin. They took their stuff to the creamery, they took it to wherever they were selling their milk. And they also continued further west, and they wound up going to the railroad. And the railroad would be taking supplies into Chicago also. But little Bode Road, there is not much of the road, anymore. It went all the way to Chicago, so even those farmers out this way were taking their produce by wagon down Bode Road, connect up with Higgins Road, take Higgins Road all the way to the city.
So the line bridge was always for cars, it wasn't really for wagons with horses?
Yes,
It was
it was made for the wagons, and cars and trucks were just coming into fashion then in 1906. That was the start of the automobile. And so Harry Emerson knew that. I don't think he ever thought there'd be that much traffic that he'd need a 2-lane bridge. So, it was just a 1-lane bridge, sturdy as anything. And it was mentioned by the Historic Bridge Foundation, was it possible that Harry Emerson got a patent on his design of the concrete arch bridge? They've never been able to find that out. And all the information about Mr. Emerson was found in engineering journals, in the history books for Cook County, where it talks about him. And he was considered quite a notable engineer. So in so many ways, our little bridge is very special, very special. And I think, let's see, I'll be in 20 what? Thank you, Mayor, for coming. When the bridge is 120 years old, in 3 more years, 26, right? 2026. I don't know. I'm going to be 84 in 2 weeks. Oh, goodness, I'll be 87. We'll see. We'll see. But I'll tell you what, I'll promise you now, if we're all still around, the 120th birthday, we are going to go over to that bridge, and we will have a birthday party like we did when it was 100 and it was 110. All right, everybody, thank you for coming.